from with the Backwoodsman Institute. In this video right here, we're going to be talking about what type of baits you can use when you're coon trapping. Now, through this video, we're going to understand what they like to eat when they're out in the wild. I'm going to give you some options of some homemade baits you can make, and I'm going to share with you one of my recipes. It's very simple to make that I use and I've had great success with. So with that, let's get started. First thing we need to understand, what does a raccoon diet consist of? All right, they're omnivores, meaning they eat plant type stuff and they eat meat type stuff. The plant type stuff being your crops, right? Whether it be field corn or maybe people put out a sweet corn patch in their garden. Coons will tear it up during the summertime. They like persimmons. They like hard mass such as acorns, stuff like that. They'll eat all that type of stuff. Now on the meat side of things, coons are land creatures that like to visit the water. All right, so they'll hit the fish, the minnows, crawdads, frogs, tadpoles. They also, in years past, we've had them get in our chicken coop, kill a bunch of chickens, and raccoons are the #1 nest destroyer there is out there. All right, wild turkeys have make their nests in the spring. If it gets tore into, more often than not, it's a raccoon that got in there and ate all the eggs or tore the nest up. So understanding that, whenever I'm trapping around a water source, I like to use a fishy type or a fishy smelling bait. But let's say I'm trapping in a barn or something, maybe I'll use a sweet bait. Coons have a mean sweet tooth, right? They love sweet things. And basically, a coon will eat anything you will eat. So whenever you're coming to choose coon baits, they're pretty simple, all right? So I'm going to give you some options here. First thing I'm going to go over is what my dad's favorite bait to use is. It's candy corn and peanuts. All right, the candy corn will go on sale after Halloween, so he just buys it up. The peanuts are shelled. You can buy them in the tube or the container, just like that. Mix them up, throw them in a cubby set, and he gets coons like that. Now, what you're giving them there is something sweet, all right, for their sweet tooth, and a mast, all right, a hard mast. The peanut is real strong smelling nut, and they just eat it up. You can also use peanut butter, all right, in a set. Next thing we're going to talk about on the sweet bait list is marshmallows. Marshmallows are an excellent bait to use. You can buy them cheap. One downfall is on them, if they get wet, they disintegrate, all right? So if you're going to be in rain, I don't like using marshmallows. But I like to use the mini marshmallows because on my theory of bait, if I give him a bunch of little bitty things that he has to pick out instead of one big chunk of bait that he can grab one time and get out, if he's got to get standing there and keep picking at the little bitty chunks of bait that I give him, he's moving his feet around and it's increasing my odds for catch. So I like to use multiple little pieces of bait. Mini marshmallows are a perfect thing to use here. One thing that I like to add with them is maple syrup. All right, maple syrup, you're just doubling the sweetness factor right there. Just increasing that aroma to get them coons over there. Now with the maple syrup, you can either use, you can mix and match whatever you want to. You can use honey, molasses from a feed mill or something like that. It doesn't have to be maple syrup, but maple syrup is cheap. Now, I use maple syrup as an additive in a lot of my other baits, and it just adds a sweet factor in there that I think increases the odds of catching a raccoon and decreases the odds of catching, your non-catch critters such as your skunks or something like that, unless you're trying to trap for skunks. All right, now let's talk about your fish type bait. You can use the same process as you would if you're using cut bait for catfish, right? Any type of fish will work. I recommend using something that has a strong smell, really oily, such as carp or another rough fish. I've used bluegill before with success. We got a farm pond, we seined it, and kept the little bluegills out of there, and I use them on the trap line for bait, and they work just fine. Well, that option is going to save you money, but then you got to have the time to cut it up, to put it in the freezer. You got to have the freezer space to keep it in the freezer till trapping season. If you're like me, have limited freezer space, then I recommend just going to Walmart or a grocery store and picking up some canned fish, such as your chub mackerel or your sardines. Those are the least expensive types. I like to use the chub mackerel because you get a little more for your money, I think. I usually get them either in water or in oil. Now, if you can find some that are in oil, that's your best option because it holds on to that fishy smell a lot longer, and when the weather drops, you have a lesser chance of your bait freezing up, because once fish freezes up, it's pretty well odorless. So this one right here is only in water, which is fine. I can add a little oil, fish oil, or either peanut oil or something in there into this recipe to, have some level of antifreeze in it. All right, now that we went over some fish options, what I'm going to do here is I'm going to show you one of the recipes that I come up with. It's very simple. It's really nothing special. It's a can of mackerel, about 1.5 cups or 2 cups of dry dog food, and some maple syrup. Now what we're doing here is we're making a fishy type bait and adding some sweet to it. All right, it's a double whammy. But the first thing we're going to do is we're just going to open a can of mackerel. Now that we got this open, we're going to pour everything, juice and all, on top of this dog food. This dog food is a filler. Even though a coon will eat this as it is, I know people that use dog food and cat food for bait, but what's going to happen is it's going to absorb all that water and all that fish smell into every one of them pieces right there, and it's going to itself be its own bait, a fishy type bait. So all we're going to do is we're going to pour it in there, and that's the chunks of mackerel in there. They're pretty big chunks. Then you can take a stick or whatever. I got a large spoon. You're just going to mash up. Very easy to mash up. And kind of stir it into that dog food. Get it all mixed up in there. Now we got it all mixed up. You can see the dog food pieces in there. Now basically we just doubled the size of our can of mackerel. Now what I like to do is take some maple syrup. Use about 2 to 3 ounces. Just give a nice squirt in there. Then you just got to mix that in there. Make sure it gets worked in there good. Now we got our syrup all mixed up in there. If you wanted to add some level of antifreeze, this is just fish oil that I picked up from a trap and supply store. I use this and I add it to my lure to make some trailing scent to my sets. But you can just add some fish oil to it, not much, about the same amount as you did syrup. That'll increase the fish smell and it'll give you some type of protection whenever the weather gets cold. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to dish it off into a container that I throw in my trapping basket. But this is just an old spaghetti sauce container. Old peanut butter jar would work as well. This is glass. It does have a chance of breaking. An old peanut butter jar or plastic jar would work a lot better. But we just had this laying around, so I'm going to put it to use. Right there, that's my sweet fish. It's in a container. Now I got a lid on it. Don't got to worry about it spilling. Throw it in my pack. I'm on my way. And it smells decent enough where a guy can debate about eating it. But I've used this with great success. Has a bunch of little pieces. My theory is if he's in there longer trying to eat all the pieces of bait, it increases my odds of a catch. It's got an element of sweet and an element of fish. It's a double whammy for a coon. So if any of y'all out there have any recipes that you put together for coon bait, put them in this comment section of this video. That way anyone who's interested in watching this video can see other people's input and see what they use, put them to the test. Hope y'all liked the video. Catch you in a bit.